Welcome to another episode of the Spiritual Investor Podcast. Okay, so typically when I have guests on here, I'm always like, oh, I met this person and I had to bring them to you and blah, blah, blah. Well, that's all true, except for I just met this person and Suzy, and she is incredible. And I am definitely in the whole whirlwind now of things happen for a reason, where it's all designed and orchestrated. And I think she's going to be like the living representation of that. I just had a feeling when she reached out, I just had a feeling, I was like, wow, there's something so inviting that I think that you guys would benefit from. And of course, there's me, like the selfish, I want to talk to her too. So, so anyway, Suzy is a nomad. She's going to tell you about that. She lives in a couple different places and she's gallivanting all over the world. And she is a transformational hypno breath work therapist, and she does that for leaders. And I don't know, hopefully I got that right, but I think she's better to describe herself anyways to you. So, Suzy, thank you for joining us on the podcast.
Elizabeth, thank you so much for having me on here. It's such an honor, and you described it perfectly.
I mean, even your accent, I'm just like leaning in. Like there's something like there's like this softness, like this gentleness. It's like I feel like your energy is almost like a sound bath, you know?
I love that. And you
Yeah.
walk away hopefully more uplifted and in higher vibrations.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I would just love to hear about just you, to be honest, because there's so much, like I said to you before, like you have this vibe and there's so much wisdom and to share coming through you. So just what would you like for us to know?
Oh, wow. Have you ever felt like you've lived so many different lives in one lifetime?
Oh yeah, like at least three.
Yeah. So when you ask about me, I'm like, which life do you want to know about?
Yeah, right.
So we'll take it back just about to 10 years ago, where I was known as Boozy Suzy. I was wild and I worked in the music industry. And I used to get paid to party and travel around the world and work with these huge DJs and record companies. And, I did not look after myself. I did what most people on the party scene do, up late at night, dancing till dawn. And it all caught up with me when I turned 30 and I got diagnosed with an autoimmune disease. And
Mm-hmm.
then that autoimmune disease, when I got diagnosed with the autoimmune disease, I did what I knew best at that time, which was to numb out, drink, smoke, eat crap. And within 6 months, I was in a doctor's surgery and they were saying that actually this autoimmune disease has now become cancerous tumors. So I got diagnosed with four cancerous tumors, and the doctors wanted to do the most horrific surgery that could have possibly happened to a woman. They wanted to do a vulvectomy. So they wanted to cut out most of my vulva, including
Wow.
including my clitoris.
Wow.
I had to sit in doctor's surgeries and listen to male doctors talk about, oh, it's okay, don't worry, we'll just cut the most precious part of your body out and we'll just rebuild it with skin from your mouth. And I was like,
Mm.
and I was not in the spiritual world at all at this point. I didn't have any toes in here at all. But something happened to me in that doctor's surgery that day. It was like a kick in the stomach, and it was just like, no, do not have the surgery. This is not your story.
Wow.
So, against everybody's opinion, against my family's, against the doctors, I said no. And I went and found a Chinese doctor. He said that he could help me. So I started working with him. I had to bathe in these Chinese herbs every day and drink these Chinese herbs every day. And that's how I started getting into this world. And I then found a Buddhist healing center in Thailand and I packed a whole suitcase of Chinese herbs, moved to Thailand, lived in this Buddhist healing center, and started to meditate. I started to fast and learning to meditate because what I realized when you're on a healing journey, everyone has like their two pence piece of like what they want you to do,
Yes.
like have the surgery. No, drink soursop, whatever it is, they have their two pence piece. So the most important thing my teacher taught me at the time was like, Susie, you need to learn to come inwards and listen to what's right for you. So that's when I started meditating. And, that journey took a whole 2 years to recover from, but I fully recovered and healed my tumors. So
Wow. At
that
what
was like,
point, like,
hmm.
I'm just fascinated. Like, at what point were you like, okay, there's a turning point here within that 2 year time?
Yeah, so actually, it was about 4 months in because I could see my tumors. And one of the doctors, like all the gynecologists and oncologists were like, you have no time, you have to get on the surgery table immediately. But one of the doctors was like, I was like pleading with her. I was like, please just let me work with this Chinese doctor. She was like, I'll give you 2 months. And after 2 months, I could see that they were shrinking. And I was like, I just
Mm.
actually started to ignore the letters. So in England, if you don't go back to your doctor's appointments, they just bombard you with letters like, why
Oh,
are you? Why haven't you come back to this appointment? You need to have the surgery. So I was just getting all these letters and I was like, I knew it was working. So I just ignored it and I was like, carry on, stay with it, stay with it. And then after 4 months, I could see that they had shrunk enough and I was like, okay, I went back to the doctor, the Western doctor, and and I'll never forget that day. I walked in with my mum and she was like, of course you would bring your mum on a day like today. And I was like, okay. And then I opened my legs and she was like, huh, I don't know what you're doing. How are you doing this?
wow.
So it was
Wow.
at that 4 month mark where she was like, okay, I'm not worried about you. Carry on doing what you're doing and just keep coming to check in with me.
Oh my gosh, Susie, this is so incredible. Oh my God. Thank you so much, like, for sharing this and just for being who you are and for being, you're such a light in the world. I mean, you would be a light in the world even without this story. But holy shit, with this story and just who you are. And I don't know, I feel like you're just getting started, to be honest. Like from the moment you came on here and I felt your energy, I was like, oh, she's just beginning.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Thanks, Elizabeth. I
Yeah.
got goosebumps.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had said something before we started this about um, living in Turkey and living in
Mhm.
London and how that all happened and even how it even like intertwined itself with money. So can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah. So after I finished healing my tumors, I I went back to living a little bit like how I used to. And do you, I know that you know this, but if we don't learn our lessons, the universe is just going to keep giving us those
Mm.
same lessons again until we do. So
Hmm.
a few years after that, I actually had a traumatic brain injury. I had a physical accident where I sustained a traumatic brain injury, and I was unable to get out of bed for 14 months. I couldn't walk properly. I couldn't talk properly. I was slurring my words, repeating the same questions over and over again.
Mm.
And I just found myself like in the worst place ever, suicidal. Most people say to me, oh, brain injury must have been so easy after cancer. And I'm like, no way. It's the exact opposite because you don't have your brain to help you through it. Your
Hmm.
brain's just like scrambled eggs. So during my brain injury, they said to me, at the 2 year mark, they were like, this is probably it. You're not going to heal much more. And at that point, I still couldn't hold more than an hour's conversation per week, 1 hour per week. I was still hardly living, unable to work. And because I'd already healed my tumors and seen what my body could do against the doctor's odds, I was like, you know what? I'm not listening to you. I'm not listening to a doctor who tells me I cannot heal. I have just absolutely refused to
Oh,
accept the
yes.
reality that I am in. And so, bringing it back to money, what I decided to do, Elizabeth, was I decided at that moment I actually remortgaged my home.
Mm.
And I just decided to go fully in on healing my brain injury. Did I did my own stem cells, which was £50,000. I was like spending £1,000 a week on hyperbaric oxygen chambers. Eventually, I bought my own hyperbaric oxygen chamber, which I have in my living room. So I was just like, I am not listening to these doctors. I'm not accepting this reality. I am going to do absolutely everything I can, even if it means me going into hundreds of thousands of pounds worth of debt. My life and my brain is worth it. And so it honestly took me a full 5 years to recover. And, I have fully recovered against all the doctor's odds, which is amazing. But like, just as soon as I lifted my head up from recovery, I was like, yes, I've recovered. I'm living again. And then I'm like, holy moly, I'm in £250,000 worth of debt.
Yeah. Oh gosh. Right.
And, like now, of course, it was all worth it. Of course, it was worth it because there's no way I
Yes.
would have carried on living that life.
Yes.
So then I come out of my brain injury. I'm like, oh my God, I'm alive. Shit, I'm in debt. I'm in how the hell am I gonna get out of this? And at this point, I turned my whole house in London into a healing sanctuary. I have a hyperbaric oxygen chamber, I have an ozone machine, infrared sauna, like
Wow.
PEM, everything. I have everything that like the top clinics have in their biohacking clinics. I have it all in my house in London. And I was like, okay, I'm in so much debt, but I have a healing center. So what am I gonna do to like, I set up this payment plan with the HM Revenue and Customs who I owed all this money to. What am I gonna do? And I was like, okay, I can Airbnb my biohacking house, which will more than cover the debt that I have to pay off. I just can't be living in it. So I was like, okay, what are we gonna do? If I need to rent my home, where am I gonna live? And I was like thinking, oh my God, am I gonna have to move back in with my mother in my 40s?
Yes. Like
After healing a brain injury, I can have
you're
to
like
move back
not
in with
doing it.
my
You're like not
mom.
doing it.
No. And do you know what? So I was just like, okay, please, universe, show me something. Show me what I can do, where I can go. And also at that point, I was like, I'm kind of done with London, but I didn't have the money to put down a deposit or like a year-long rental agreement. I didn't have that spare money because suddenly I was paying all this debt off. So I asked the universe, and honestly, Elizabeth, it was like instantaneous karma. And it is so beautiful to witness because even though I was in so much debt, the Turkey and Syria earthquake happened. And I have many Turkish friends and I love Turkey. And this earthquake happened and I knew they were housing refugees. And I was like, I'm going to do an online charity event to raise money for the refugees. So I did this charity event to raise money for the refugees. And because of that event, I was talking to someone who I had never usually talked to. And she was like, oh, by the way, Susie, I have this two-bedroom apartment. Do you want it? It's really cheap and you don't need a deposit. And I was like, yes.
Oh my God.
So it was instantaneous karma. I packed up my house within 3 weeks, started Airbnb my biohacking house, paying off my debt. And the most beautiful thing is that it got me to move out of England to a country which I probably wouldn't have had the courage perhaps to have done without that push.
Hmm.
And It's the best thing that could have happened. I love living in Turkey so much.
Oh my gosh. Okay, so there I have so many questions. One of them is uh you just healed from a brain injury. You were dealing with the debt, and you still, even with that at that point, brought in all new ideas, all new channels of wealth. And you then started a charity for people who were like in strife, basically, all throughout this. And like, do you, what do you have to say about that human that I just described? Like, I mean, do you find her fascinating too? Because I find her fascinating.
I really thank you so much for the mirror because you know when you're just like you just carry on and do it because this is what you love to do. So I appreciate the mirror. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I can't, I'm not going to say most people because that's a generalization and then that's just kind of useless information. Um, but I can tell you right now how inspiring it is for everyone, myself included, that you're just like it's like life is a playground. You're like, oh, well, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go over here and I'm going to go over here. And from what it seems like to me is you're not so heavily weighed down by circumstances, which are basically a 3D lag effect of the past. And have you always been like that?
No. I think it's because I face my own mortality.
Ah. Okay, yes. Because, yes, people at the end of their life, and you probably know this, the one thing that people say, the most common thing is, why didn't I live life to my own standards rather than trying to basically make everybody else happy?
Yeah.
And so there's this opening, it's like a portal opening, right? And so that's kind of what we're trying to do now is like, how can we live in that portal opening? Because the irony is that portal opening is the portal opening to life.
Exactly. Exactly. And so I feel like because I had to face my own mortality, it's just given me this lightness of being, you know, it's like
Mm,
it doesn't matter, you know, like life is so precious. And it's, you know, I think like we can logically understand that, you know, life is short and we can see our parents getting older and people around us dying. But until you have looked in the mirror, and I've had to do it twice with my cancer and when I was suicidal with my brain injury, when you have looked in the mirror and gone, I could fucking die. Sorry for swearing. I
no, it's
could
okay.
die. I could
Yeah.
die. When you actually feel it viscerally in your body, then everything changes because you felt it on a visceral level. It's like, wow, this life really is so truly precious. And it gives you a whole new outlook on life. And actually, this is one of the sessions I take my clients on, is
Mm.
I actually take them to their deathbed.
Mm. Really?
Because, yes, so that they can also feel it viscerally. Because there's so many lessons there. And once you learn those lessons, then you forgive easier, then you move on easier, then you don't get stuck in different places where you don't want to be, you know?
Yes. Oh my God, it makes me emotional just even thinking about this because it's funny because what's been coming up for me the last couple of years is um, planning into my death. And of course, I've always thought about it from a financial perspective, you know. I'm not married anymore. And so when I was married, it was like, okay, well, you know what's going to happen with everything. And to a certain degree, I still didn't have everything tied up. But it's like now I'm not. And I just like blew up my whole life in California. And then I came to Tennessee because I wanted a soft landing to be with my family. And that was the best decision ever because now I live on 60 acres of gorgeous land. Is just peacefulness, and there's a spiritual connection here to my grandfather, and so I'm now living into that. And he was awake, and so I came back here Like I knew when I decided to come back here, like I heard it. It's time for you to see the world through your grandfather's eyes.
Mm.
And so I have just been opening, and that has been opening and opening and opening. And part of this has been this really strange feeling. That's the only way I can describe it. That I need to, that not need to, that there's freedom in preparing to die because then that weight will be lifted off of me. And it's almost like an invisible weight. It's not something that I think about all the time, but I'm craving to meet that version of me who has everything so tidied up in a way that it's like, fuck it, who cares?
Yeah, beautiful,
Yeah.
beautiful.
It's like the freedom on that. And I can feel things coming into my life that are supporting this as well. Like I'm considering I've always wanted to live in New York for a little while, but I don't want to live there permanently. And then all of a sudden, a friend of mine's like, "Hey, by the way, I'm going to India. I have an apartment in New York. Do you know anybody who wants to stay here?" Like it's so now I'm considering that. Like it's even the travel, like something is changing. And I think it's changing for all of us, but you must have gone through this where you've changed so much. It's a frequency shift. And then you're almost looking back on the other person, like, like in this awe, like, holy shit. Like there's no judgment to it, but it's like, I'm not that person anymore.
Hmm. Yeah, and obviously there's that's like it's great and it's hard all at the same time, because then it's like if you're not that person, like you don't really connect with your friends anymore, and you're like, where are
Well,
my new
yes,
friends? And then there's like that loneliness, that loneliness
yes,
period in between.
yes,
And so then you maybe get tempted to go and be that old person again just to like connect with people, but then
yes.
that is not in alignment. So, you know, it's nice to know that you're not that person anymore. No, it's also like, okay, there's the void until you connect with your new friends, and which is why I love coming onto podcasts like this and meeting other
Mhm.
people who I can have these conversations with.
Well, and you're right. And like there's also happening at the same time is that people who are now aligned with your new frequency are coming into your life, like you coming into my life. It feels very like I use the word inviting. Like it feels very inviting. It feels very like out of my hands, but in a really, exciting way. And I think for me, there has also been like this level of responsibility that I have taken on with regards to the shift in the frequency. And I think that can show up in different ways. With you, it's like, look at the level of responsibility you took in your own healing. So basically, you chose it, but you didn't choose it based on, okay, I'm going to listen to everybody else in these circumstances. Like you really went vertical on it, which is like absolutely incredible. You called through the power of you, right?
Hmm.
To be able to change your life. And I think this shows up in different forms, like I said, but like for myself, um, I have been going through and I haven't even talked about this on the podcast, either, a I want to say rigorous, but that's not even the right word because rigorous carries a connotation of there's something wrong. There's an element of suffering in it, which it's not. It's an ongoing, observation of my thoughts.
Hmm.
And there's a detachment that is happening, almost like, the balloon has been let go, and there's been a power that has come through that. And there's been a level of seeing that has come through that because when you don't have the entanglements,
Yeah.
then you can do anything. And I think that that's what you're talking about, but you're talking about it in this really raw, colorful, beautiful form.
Yes. Yes. And I'm going to add another caveat to that.
Yes,
Is like
please.
someone said to me the other day, they did a poll, and I didn't even think about it. until she had written this poll. She said, "What, like, do you have internal monologue or not? Like, thoughts?" Honestly, Elizabeth, I don't have internal monologue or internal thoughts often because I
Really?
just feel like, no, I don't. I
Wow.
just walk around and I'm just like, I feel like
Yeah.
I'm just so in awe of the world and of life. Like, I don't have thought processes constantly
Yes.
going on in my monkey mind. I just walk around. I think it is because of that, facing death again. It's, and now I just live and I feel so fully present that I'm not even in my mind having thoughts to even catch or think about because
Hmm.
I'm just like, oh my God, today's another day. Look at that tree. The sun is
Hmm.
shining. Oh, it's Alan Watts talks about it and he calls it the
Yes.
unspeakable world.
Yes. It's funny. I was just listening to him like an hour ago. Yeah. Because I listen to him all the time.
Yeah. So
Wow.
it's like the unspeakable world. It's like the world that you can't even think about or speak about. You just feel it.
This is so you're a reflection back from me because my team, they say this, they've been saying this for years and they say it like they're kind of making fun of me, but then they're not. They're like, God, what it would be like to be Elizabeth because they go every day for Elizabeth is and they do their hands and like it's a new day. And then I was recently in a relationship where um she's like, "Oh my God, I cannot stand the way that you just move on from something and I need to talk about it." And I'm like, I can't. You know, but then there are certain areas. What you're reflecting back to me is that it's really not an overall thing. And maybe the listeners are can see themselves in this too, that it's not a global thing. It is what I'm now seeing that it was what was in my life that was causing the entanglements. And once I dealt with those entanglements, I had almost forgotten that I was so free in these other areas because those entanglements were clouding the other
Mhm.
areas. And it could be like what you're talking about with an illness, even to a certain degree. Like if you're going to focus, 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 right? Obviously, there was a lot of mind work. That's all. Well, beyond the mind, we'll say, work with regards to that. And so, perhaps you being so naturally free of your thoughts because I really feel like this is a very simple game. It's either you are in knowingness that it's just a thought
Mhm.
or you're not.
Mhm.
And I go back to there's just me. It's just me. And any entanglement I have is a creation from me. It has nothing to do with the other person because I'm not even really interacting with the other person. I'm interacting with the version of them I've created in my mind.
Interesting.
And once
Yes.
I realized that, I was like, remember I was walking around my grandfather's shop. I was like, holy shit. Well, then this is so easy. This is so easy, right?
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
God, you are so incredible. So can you please tell us about what you do? Because I can't wait to be more in your world. And I know everybody here is gonna, well, I would suspect they're gonna feel the same.
Thanks, Elizabeth. Yes. So I feel like what I love to do now is really help people remind themselves of their own power. And when I was healing my brain injury, like for 14 months bedbound, not able to, and I wasn't able, people are like, oh, did you just watch TV? No, of course I couldn't watch TV. It was the noise, the flashing lights, the colors. I
Yeah.
couldn't have anything. I could hardly even open the curtain. I was literally in a pitch black room, bedbound. And my vision changed so much I could hardly even read. So it's the only thing I had left when I was in that dark room was my breath. And luckily, I had just discovered breath work 1 month before my accident. And I was like, okay, if this is all I've got, then I'm going to utilize it. So it really was such a key in my healing. And we don't often get told how powerful our breath is, and we all have it. What I love about breath work is like, it's not It doesn't matter how much money you have, what age you
Yeah.
are, what color your skin
Yeah.
is, where you live. Like everyone can tap into this, you know, when you know how. So I was like, okay, once it helped heal me, I was like, I have to share this modality. So that's when I started doing different trainings. But then what also happened, a few years into my brain injury, when I was like, it took 2.5 years before I could hold conversations or be able to speak to people properly. What I found myself in then was at that point was like I had zero confidence. All my relationships with my family, whoever had broken down, they couldn't support me. And I was just in like a really dark place where I didn't really know who I was anymore.
Hmm.
And I had zero self-worth. And then I found my teacher, Francesca Sitmer, who has created this hypnobreathwork brand where you combine breathwork to access altered states of consciousness, theta brainwave states,
Mm.
our subconscious mind, and then you combine it with hypnosis to start reprogramming your subconscious. And then it finishes with Dr. Joe Dispenza's visioning technique to put you in the energy of the future. What you talk about, the quantum shifts, we're moving into the energy of where we want to go. And
Hmm.
actually, it was through this technique that actually huge shifts happened in my life. I was able to regain my confidence. I healed the relationship with my mother. I
Wow.
started my business because of this. I healed my money blocks because of this, and it's this
Wow.
particular technique that has really helped me work on those subconscious blockages that have like propelled me forward. Because breathwork alone I still hold, like holotropic breathwork sessions. Like I'd always have these amazing experiences and like for sure, something shifted and trauma was released, but you couldn't really pinpoint it. Whereas with hypnobreath work, it was like, okay, wow, I've really rewritten that money story now. Wow, even I'm seeing ways I could get different streams of income coming in. I'm manifesting it. It's through this method that things really shifted. So this is what I really love to share with my clients.
Wow. Thank you so much for sharing it with us. And I cannot wait to learn more about it. I'm going to go through a session as well. So I will definitely be talking about that. Maybe even you can come back on or, we'll figure that out, but definitely want to share the experience of what this is like because I have a feeling um, that it's something really, really opening.
Mm. Yeah, I mean, it changed my whole life. So it's such I love sharing it so much.
Yeah. Wow. Well, and sharing you, that's the thing. Like, thank you for healing you so that you could be back here with us. And the story that you have and the people that you're gonna touch with your story and your light and all of that. Is there anything that you feel like kind of during this conversation that either a takeaway or something that like you want to minutely deliver to or say to people here?
Mm. Yeah, really learn to trust your intuition. Start building deep trust with your intuition so that when those um, those opportunities happen where it's like, oh, do you want this flat in Turkey? Yes, I'll take it. Or whether it's a no as well. And so then when you're on your
Mhm.
healing journeys, you know whether things are yeses or nos. And, meditation, breath work, and hypno breath work has been such a key for me to building the muscle within my intuition. So when you follow your intuition, you're never going to be guided wrong.
Yeah, you're not. I think that sometimes people just don't know what is intuition and what's not.
It's a muscle that can be trained and
Hmm.
learned and built, and you just learn step by step to slowly trust it.
Hmm. Yeah, I find that when things come through intuition, which is basically the divine guidance, is it's always a win-win situation.
You may not think, and yes, definitely. But also, what I love about intuition is you may not think it's a win-win at the
Right.
time,
Right. It
but you
oftentimes doesn't seem like it, right? But you just have to
exactly
go with it, and then that is the confirmation, right?
right.
Is the win-win situation, you know? And I even apply this like I mean, I apply intuition to stocks like crazy, and I've done extremely well as an investor for 25 years because it's the same thing, and that's part of what I teach people is like, no, it's exactly the same thing because and they're like do you buy a stock that, you know, are you selling a lot of stock? And I'm like, I rarely sell a stock because I buy it from a different place.
Mhm.
And the stock ends up sort of carrying my vision, which is to become an asset that grows into the future and it becomes eventually an income generating asset. And it works. All of this stuff works, however we want to apply it, really.
Oh, 100%. I love that so much. And
Yeah.
it doesn't often make logical sense, but that's when you really know it's intuition. You're like, what? Why are you telling me to go over there? Or it's not comfortable. But when you start following it and trusting it, then the whole of life turns, actually, I would say quite magical.
You're right. It does. And you know, I was talking about this in my in the mastermind the other night too, that which is like it's like it can't be logical to a certain degree. I mean, because then it's from the mind, right? And that going back to what you said about yourself, um, is you don't have a lot of thoughts. So therefore, I would assume that your intuition is more free flowing because you don't have a lot of thoughts. So there's not a lot of like muddled, which is effectively the same thing. Like I created a visualization uh, to um, to stop the entanglements, and I just kept doing it over and over and over again because it is we have so much of an energetic tie to the outside world, and that is causing our energy to sort of be leaked and to be
Mhm.
taken out. And then we're like, we're exhausted. And we look at the circumstances and go, we're exhausted. Well, you're not exhausted because of the circumstances. You're creating the circumstances that are exhausting you.
Yes.
And that is where you have to cut this. And
Yeah.
so I would assume that the stuff that you're doing, your work, is likely creating a certain level of detachment. And the whole breath thing, that being your power and not realizing I haven't tapped into that either. Like I've done breath work, but I do not know the power of it. And I will be absolutely the first to admit that. But there's something pulling me towards it, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Breathwork is, what you were saying there, breathwork is actually one of the only ways where we can bypass our prefrontal cortex
Really.
through breathwork. So that monkey mind, those thought loops that are always going on during
Yeah,
breathwork, we bypass that. So I'm wondering whether just over the years I have just started bypassing it more that now that's
maybe.
my norm. You know, it was so interesting when I was healing my brain injury. They were doing neurofeedback training on me, and I had straps and electrodes all around my head. And my doctor was getting me to do things to get blood flow to my brain because I had so much inflammation. I wasn't getting much blood flow. So he got me to do the normal things like telling stories, counting, repeating questions after him, and nothing was getting blood flow to my brain. And but they're all things that activate the prefrontal cortex. But luckily, he was super open-minded, and he was like, "Susie, do your breathing." And within a second, all this blood
Mm,
flow and the computer set
really?
that up to all these other parts of my brain. So this is not the prefrontal cortex. We are bypassing it.
Wow.
So this does start to then, as you say, like tune you more into that intuition, into those
Hmm.
out of the monkey mind.
Mm. Wow. Okay. Well, I feel like this whole conversation is just beginning. So it's like there's a bunch of beginnings here. Um, Thank you. Oh my gosh. Thank you. It doesn't even do justice for coming here and being with us and sharing your light, your wisdom, what you're doing in life. God, I don't know. I see so much in what you're doing and who you are. So I just want, there's not even a good way to say that, but I just wanted to impart that to you.
That touches my heart so deeply.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Elizabeth. I've loved this conversation so much.
Yeah. You're welcome. You're welcome. Okay, so this was a big one. I hope you guys enjoyed it. And yeah, I'll see you on the next episode. I wanted to take a minute here to talk to you about the Spiritual Investor, by far the most robust A to Z money program there is out there. You're going to learn how to increase your income. You're going to learn how to make empowered strategic decisions with your money. And you're going to learn how to expand your money through investing, which buys you freedom so that you can go out there in the world and do more. The goal is that you won't even think about money, that you'll get to a point where the things that you desire and want in your life will automatically be covered by the money that you have effortlessly coming in. Now, all of this is based on my life. It is based on what I have seen actually works out there, but what I do is I put it together in a way that is based on real time right now. How do you read between the lines of the economy? How do you bring your intuition into investing? And how do you actually capitalize on what the opportunities are out there for you right now? Now, I have a background in finance. I worked on a trading floor for over a decade. I also created a real estate business that brought me in over $1 million and is still making money for me. I created a business that helped rescue horses, so taking horses off the track and retraining them. And I created the Spiritual Investor 7 years ago, actually. So I have been able to help thousands of people with their money. And this business, actually, what it does is it helps me fulfill my mission, which is to put more wealth in the hands of those who are conscious, because I believe that that's my part in helping to change the world. So you can get started with all of this for $17. And it does not matter if you are just getting started with investing, if you're just getting started with money, if you're in fear and scarcity, all of that, or it doesn't matter if you have millions of dollars. The Spiritual Investor, we have specifically designed the product suite so that we can meet you exactly where you are. So go to thespiritualinvestor.com and I will meet you there.